The final score, Wrexham 2, Borehamwood 1. I'm Mark Griffiths from the Wrexham media team, bringing you the Final Whistle podcast and looking back on an excellent opening day of the season win. It was scrappy, certainly, but the conditions played a massive part in that. Also, Rob Lainton played a massive part in the win. Not saying we didn't deserve it, but we could have been out of the game after 10 minutes. The keeper did extremely well, and as we adapted to the circumstances and the conditions more and more as the game went on, we claimed victory. Another worldie from Luke Young, bless him. So, how the game carried out? Well, firstly, Wrexham's side had 7 debutants, 2 players making their second debuts, and also Jake Bickerstaff, who came off the bench to make his league debut. So it was a new look side, and yet the pre-season has had a homogenous feel to it. So the side actually didn't feel like a group of strangers thrown together. They looked solid. It's a sign of the strength of the squad that Dean Keats has put together, that the likes of Sean Pearson, Mark Carrington, Jordan Davis, Dan Jarvis weren't even in the 16. So Wrexham started off playing a 4-4-2, Kelleher and Vassell at the back, Lainton in goal, full backs Hall, Johnson and Record, across midfield, Young and Harris in the middle, Jeffrey on the left, Durrell on the right, and up front for the first 27 minutes or so, 21 minutes I think it was actually, Adi Yusuf and Kwame Thomas. And we started horribly because, well, like I said, the wind was very important and Borehamwood played it well. Now, firstly, let's get this straight. Borehamwood are a strong side. They lost in the semi-finals of the playoffs last time by 1 goal to Harrogate, who went up through the playoffs. They've pretty much retained the squad that they had then, and they've added some interesting signings too. So they are a team that are bound to be, I would argue, at least in the playoffs. I'd be astounded if they're not. And although they're no longer a long ball team that we remember from a couple of years ago, they can mix it up. They're a very big team. And so they rode the howling wind and driving rain really well. I'm told by people who watched the live stream that the bad conditions really didn't come across properly, but there were a lot of missed headers. There was a lot of missed chances, to be honest, as we'll go through in a moment. A number of opportunities to score, which looked fairly straightforward, ended up with players not even making contact with the ball. And yeah, it was also a strong wind like that just knocks you around, just knocks you off your balance when you're trying to play football. Considering that, the two sides did very well. Although I would also factor in that the nature of the game, because it was really pretty stretched, was also down to that difficulty in actually playing in the conditions. From my new vantage point, because for the first time since we had a wooden stand and a Mould Road stand, I was commentating on the Mould Road side, you could really see clearly the poplars behind the Wrexham stand and behind the Yale stand bending massively in the wind. These are really tricky conditions. And Borehamwood took advantage of them extremely well in the opening stages. The first 10 minutes they battered us, and Rob Lainton came to the rescue. Sorba Thomas was terrific in the first half down the left hand side. He came down there, pulled it back, and from 10 yards out, Corey Whitley struck a powerful shot, an excellent save by Lainton, getting down very low to his right to push the ball away. However, the ball dropped in the goal mouth, and it looked certain that Chimanga was going to score. He's only about a yard out, probably. Lainton brilliantly got back up, hurled himself bodily at the striker and the ball, and took the blow. An excellent, brave save, and an absolutely crucial one. From the corner, it was half cleared, back out to Thomas on the left wing, the player who took the corner. He cut inside, beat Luke Young rather too easily, and then from the left channel drove in another powerful shot again into that bottom left corner, and again Lainton did well to get down and push it away for a corner. Wrexham's first response was out of the blue in the 10th minute. Brilliant work by Luke Young, who nipped in typically to intercept and drive forwards. He fed the ball to Durrell on the right flank. He cut inside, There was very little in the box for him to aim for, so he got himself into the right channel. And while we know he's got a terrific technique, he's a great striker of the ball, he really ripped it. It wasn't a promising position to shoot from, but he pulled it just wide at the left post. A good hit by Durrell. But like I said, it was against a run of play, and indeed, within a minute, Borehamwood had nearly taken the lead. A free kick on the left flank. Thomas whipping it in with real pace. I think the intention really was that hopefully somebody would just get a glancing head onto it. But you know the sort of thing they are. If nobody gets a touch, they can go straight in. And this was arrowing for the top right corner. Lainton, of course, couldn't commit himself till he saw that the ball had gone past all the players in the area. So he did really well to get across and parry it clear. We continued to come under a lot of stress. Kelleher and Vassal in particular, absolutely outstanding at the back, dealing with a bombardment. And believe me, when Matt Reed is the target man you're up against, it's a bombardment. Although Borehamwood are saying mix it around now, they don't just launch it long. Reed is a nightmare, physical player, hard to handle. It was interesting to see the street smart of Rob Lainton in this situation. He clearly made a conscious decision, because the ball was obviously wobbling around in the wind as it was coming down, that he wasn't going to try and catch things. He was going to punch, because he couldn't be certain exactly where the ball would be when it arrived. He was right to do so as well. And also that when Reed was involved, he certainly was going to punch, because trying to catch the ball when Reed is hurling himself at you is no easy task. Kelleher stood up magnificently, a brilliant debut by him to the physical challenge. In fact, Kelleher also was involved in the next moment, a really good interception, which poked the ball out to the edge of the area, but Whitley got there first. Now, Kelleher had done ever so well to track Reed and had clattered into him making the interception. Whitley, in a great, dangerous position, drove it from the edge of the box. Luckily for Wrexham, it hit Reed as he's tumbled to the ground after Kelleher's challenge and bounced away harmlessly. When Matt Reed is falling in front of you, I would argue it's hard to avoid him. Just saying. And then in the 27th minute, against a run of play, although it should be said, Wrexham did have some decent moments as the half wore on. Harris and Young were excellent in midfield, fighting for absolutely every ball, and we'd started to look a little threatening. But then when we took the lead, there's no denying it was against a run of play. It was good work again by Kelleher. The ball's in the centre circle. Kelleher had stepped up. There was a scramble. About 4 players in very close proximity to the ball. Firstly, Kelleher did well to be decisive and win it. And secondly, really good feet to work a little foot of space for himself and push the ball out wide to Reece Hall-Johnson. I've got to be frank and say that in looking at videos of Kelleher playing for Macclesfield last season, I thought, yeah, this guy's a real stopper, but is he actually much good at the ball at his feet? Well, he was yesterday, and this was a lovely piece of skill to find Hall-Johnson, and Hall-Johnson, well, he just loves driving forwards. He tore up the pitch, got to the edge of the area, with little support, decided to smash a shot in. It took a deflection off the defender, which wrong-footed Ashmore, and even though he did well to get down to his left and actually get his hands on the ball, he couldn't stop it from deflecting into the net. Such was the strength of the shot, even with the deflection taking some power off it. So Wrexham took the lead. Hall-Johnson had a goal on his debut, his first goal in 2 years, and that one was scored for Chester, so nice to get that one scrubbed off his record, eh? Borehamwood responded well. In fact, within a minute, they could have equalised. Thomas beating the goal scorer, Hall-Johnson, and driving the ball across the face. Nobody could get that final touch. And Wrexham regained the equilibrium, improved as the half wore on, and should have been 2-0 up at the break. And this is one of those instances where, like I said, I think the wind played a big part. A free kick given to Young in midfield. He lofted a great ball in towards the 6-yard box. Now, all through pre-season, we saw Theo Vassal losing his man. He did it again and attacked the far post 6 yards out, unmarked. It looked a certain goal, and he missed the ball completely. It was, I can only assume the wind was making it wobble, not least because other players experienced similar things. But certainly we pressed hard at the end of that half, and we started the second half superbly. Of course, having dug in and got to the break ahead, with Borehamwood having maybe the better of the conditions, we now had the better of them ourselves, and we pushed on and pushed on. Although over the break, it must be said that Borehamwood had a really good opportunity 5 minutes into the half. A ball over the top by Lasandmi. Chimanga found himself 6 yards out, completely on his own, but two factors went in Wrexham's favour, one of which was that I think it was coming awkwardly over his shoulder, and the other that the wind was making the path of the ball difficult. So he made very little contact on his shot, hitting it into the ground, and it's spinning back up again. And Leighton was able to deal with it as Reid hurled himself at it, and again Leighton wisely chose to punch and punched the ball away almost on a half volley off Reid's head. Soon afterwards Leighton would have a problem from a corner, which again his decision to punch was allowed him to deal with. The wind taking the ball as it was in the air and skidding through, and almost like an outside edge in cricket, just skimming the top part of his gloves and looping off into the cop. But if he tried to catch that, he would have dropped it surely, and he would have had a problem. So again, good decision making before Wrexham were driving up the other end. A nice charge by Jeffrey. The ball played in towards the edge of the area. Chance for Hall Johnson, who drove in a shot that was blocked and span back out. So beg your pardon, he drove in a cross shot which hit the post and span back out to Record. Decent chance about 10 yards out, but he leaned back and launched it over the bar. And then a minute later, Wrexham causing problems again. Adi Yusuf, as I said earlier, only lasted just over 20 minutes, sadly, before picking up a knock. So Jake Bickerstaff came on to make his league debut and was extremely hard-working. And on this occasion, driving forwards on the right challenge, did really well to take the ball to the Borehamwood defence and was only denied by a terrific last-ditch tackle. The corner on the left came in. Jeffrey swung it in dangerously. Kelleher met it cleanly with a header 6 yards out. It looked to be a goal, but Smith was on the near post and was able to block it and clear off the line. Set pieces were massive in this game. Wrexham, would score the winner from a set piece after Borehamwood in a moment would equalise from a set piece. I've got to say, a concern for Wrexham that we conceded so many free kicks in our own defensive third, especially against a team of the qualities of Borehamwood, who are always looking to dominate in the air and who have very good delivery. Sorba Thomas put a lot of good balls in, but we defended them generally well. Rode our luck on occasions, but then maybe Borehamwood benefited for a bit of luck because Andrew Miller, the referee, he gave some very soft free kicks to them, and one of those led to their equaliser. Hall Johnson running of Sorba Thomas. That challenge, that battle had changed in the second half. The dynamic was different. Thomas was a much more peripheral character than he was in the first. But on this occasion, he managed to go shoulder to shoulder with Hall Johnson. It was a good race, those two, because they're both quick. For my money, Hall Johnson leaned on him. I didn't think it was much more than that, but the referee seemed to be on a bit of a hair trigger with those sort of things and gave the free kick almost right on the corner quadrant. It was swung in to the near post very, very dangerously. Nice delivery, and getting up at the near post, Jamie Record could only skim it off the top of his head into the bottom corner of his own net. Nothing much he could really do about it. Although strangely, defending near post from a corner against Telford, he nearly scored an own goal in that friendly game at the racecourse in exactly the same circumstances. But it was a fantastic delivery, really sort of swung in with pace, and there wasn't a great deal that really could be done about it. So Borehamwood had equalised a touch fortuitously, but if you put the ball in the right areas, eventually you get rewarded. But that lead only lasted 8 minutes before Wrexham took the lead. A good piece of work by Durrell, who was coming more and more central, picking the ball up with a good touch, and despite the fact that he was under a lot of pressure, carrying it to the edge of the D where he was fouled. Luke Young stepped up. I don't recall ever seeing Luke Young score a free kick. I don't recall him taking many. I'm glad he chose to take this one, because he tore it brilliantly over the ball, keeper's side into the top left corner. I say keeper's side, Ashmore had no chance whatsoever. It was a beautiful strike, and Wrexham had the lead. Borehamwood responded well and were able to put us under pressure in the last 15 minutes. There was a moment of, either good fortune or genius from Jamie Record. I was commentating with James Harrison, And I know he's a cricket man, so apart from the outside edge reference of Leighton's bunch, I also suggested that Record was very fortunate in how he dealt with a situation 17 minutes from the end. A dangerous cross from the left-hand side. Record running towards his own goal. It was a nasty delivery coming in at the far post. Matt Reed was behind him. Record decided to leave it. I don't know if it was genius or luck. Reed came round the side of him, stretched, and from point-blank range couldn't quite reach the ball. As I say, sort of cricket metaphor I suggested to James was it's like a batsman who leaves the ball when it's just a fraction of an inch off hitting the bails. So really, really either brilliant piece of judgment or incredibly lucky piece of judgment. I mean, I don't know if there's any American sports fans looking. I suppose is it like a pitcher working the corners when they're... I don't know. Would there be Americans watching? Who knows? I'm available for voiceover work. Borehamwood continue to push and we continue to defend well. There was one more opportunity. A corner swung in 6 yards out. A free header for Ricketts. And that same pattern again. Couldn't make contact. He still had his head in his hands. A minute later, he knew that was a glorious chance. And Wrexham closed the game out well to get a super win. Borehamwood had tested us massively. But we came through it. Looking through the team, Leighton outstanding, absolutely outstanding, both in his shot stopping and in the way he dealt with the awkward wobbling ball in the air. Across the back, I went Kelleher for man of the match. He was massive. He was just massive. Although our official commentary man of the match was Jay Harris, as I'll get to in a moment. James and I sort of duked it out. Vassell wasn't far behind that either. As we've seen in pre-season, his pace is a real asset. He battled and won some good headers and defended his area well, but his pace, allowing him to get round the back and cover for Kelleher, is a key component if we're going to do well this season. The fullbacks, Record was solid defensively, got forward pretty well. He's unlucky with the own goal, can't blame him for that. On the other side, Hull Johnson, well, he was in the middle of everything. He had real trouble with Thomas. Although I've got to say, I felt the main reason for that was that Sorba Thomas was superb. He really was a testing presence. He was leaving players for dead when they were doubling up on him in the first half. In the second half, he quietened, and Hull Johnson had a much better game defensively. I think Wrexham looked just a little tighter in that part of the pitch. Players were getting across to support him a bit quicker. And so Hull Johnson was able to deal with him better. He scored well. And he gave away the free kick, although it was harsh, that led to the equaliser. Pretty much, and he was booked. If anything happened, Hull Johnson was involved. But to be fair to him, going forwards, I was impressed. He's very fast, he's very direct. And yeah, I think the last time we've had a right back quite like that would probably be Curtis Obeng, bearing in mind that Javan Vidal didn't really do what it said on the tin. So promising signs again from Hull Johnson, but that vulnerability to Thomas is something we'll have to address. James noticed in commentary how often we were able to get both full backs up in attack, such as when Hull Johnson hit the post and then Record got to the rebound. That was because Harris was tucking back quite a lot and splitting the centre-backs. But, yeah, good promise to see us getting width in that way. In the middle of the pitch, I don't know, Luke Young and Jay Harris. Well, they were Luke Young and Jay Harris. Harris battling for everything, some really hard tackles. My favourite was in the first half, one on the edge of the area, where he was actually fouled. It was quite a late challenge on him. But it was the Borehamwood player who needed treatments, because even when you foul Jay Harris, you come up worst. Beg your pardon. Alongside him, Young, a little bit further up the pitch, nipping in, trying to intercept, doing well, driving forward, scored a fabulous goal. The two of them just fought for everything. In those conditions and against a physical team, you needed to be able to stand up and face them, and Wrexham did. On the flanks, Durrell, there's an interview with him this Friday, I did, on Dragonheart. And he was fascinating. And one of the points I made to him was that I felt in his first spell, I never really fully got to know what he was like or capable of as a player. And I felt I discovered more in this pre-season and in this game. And he agreed. You could really see what he can bring to the party. He had some lovely creative touches, tried to play some killer passes, and his control in difficult conditions was excellent. On the left-hand side, Anthony Jeffrey didn't cause fullbacks the problems he was causing in pre-season, but he worked typically hard up and down that flank, occupied the right back. Beg your pardon. I'm going to take a drink of water. Disappearing for a second. Back before you know it. Off camera. Drinking from the bottle. Classy. So the wide men did well. Up front, Yusuf worked hard and didn't get a chance to show anything before he got hurt. Thomas works exceptionally hard, but I mean, the fact that this is the first time I'm mentioning him shows that he is a target man. He's not really going to be a player I don't think is going to get on much in the box necessarily, but he's a strong target man. He brings players in well. He battled well. He was up against two of the bigger and better centre-backs he'll come up against this season, and he didn't get that much change out of them, but he did pin them and battled terrifically hard. Off the bench, no. The other thing of Thomas was the referee hated him. The number of times he penalised Thomas for all sorts of minor demeanours, I couldn't quite get my head around, to be honest with you. Then off the bench, Bickerstaff had a long spell, did well. Horsfield was brought on right at the end just to tidy up the midfield and protect the lead. Rutherford came on and put in 10 minutes of good endeavour just to give Durrell a rest. It was great. I'm very happy with that. An excellent victory. And our opening fixtures are tough and they come thick and fast, but we've got reason, I think, to be quite optimistic about it. And the final score, oh dear me, and the final score of Wrexham 2, Borehamwood 1. I'm Mark Griffiths from the Wrexham AFC media team. I'm going off now to have a lie down. It's not that, don't worry, it's not. I've just got a bad throat. Don't worry, if you were.